On the show today, I have Tim, who heads a coding school in Berlin. Tim really helped me when I was onboarding to Zalando, and I always enjoyed his enthusiasm to get new engineers started in an organization. I'm so excited to have Tim as a guest on this podcast today. Welcome to the podcast, Tim.
Vivek, great introduction. Thank you for having me. I was really looking forward to joining your show.
So, Tim, could you share a little bit about yourself? Like, what is your story, where you're coming from, and what do you do today in your job?
Yeah, happy to do that. My name is Tim. I am born and raised in Berlin. I am currently 31 years old and soon a father of two wonderful girls. So one I have already, one is coming soon. And right now, for a living, I am heading WBS Coding School, where we help people to basically change their professional, but also partially their personal life by helping them to learn the jobs of tomorrow.
Wow. And could you share a little bit about this WS coding school? Like, how did you think about getting into running and operating a coding school?
Ooh, uh, that's a tough one to start with, but also a question that I'm asking myself very often. I think in the past years, to me, it was very often a chaining of random events paired with passion and motivation for this specific topic. So I always loved working or being in the tech environment. It started with me being 5 years old, having my first Game Boy. I was always inspired by what you could do with tech. Um, Unfortunately, what I was missing a bit, that I didn't directly made a career out of it. So I came over a different route to this job, I would say. Um, but this is driving me. This is driving myself, helping people to have a good life. We know that the world right now and this year and the past year have been very good examples, is changing a lot when it comes to going more and more digital. And this is a very good reason why I love the job that I'm doing with my team, helping people to be future proof when it comes to their job. So what we basically do with our coding school, that on an international level, so all over Europe, we help people through an online coding school to learn the jobs that have been created in the past years. So one specific example, 6, 7 years ago, who was talking about data science? And it is pretty challenging to pick up this job nowadays because traditional education does not really help you all the time with these new professions. And this was one of the main motivations why we started out with this coding school.
Fantastic. And I picked up a word that you mentioned about when you were explaining about this WS coding school is about future proofing. Can you share what do you mean by future proofing in this
Mhm.
case?
Yeah, with pleasure. One example I always love mentioning is that there's a lot of research going on saying that 40% of all the jobs in 2030 we don't know yet. And the probability is quite high that these jobs have to do something with technology and need a new digital mindset. And with future proof, I mean, is that we help people to be prepared for this time. Um, just COVID-19 was a great example how many industries we could digitalize with technologies. How many people went to work from home, and how many managers realized that this is working at the end of the day. To me, it was fantastic because I was born in 1989, so I'm still one of the people who knows the radio, but also I
Hmm.
grew up with the mobile phone. So I'm really in the middle of these two generations. So I was really happy to see that how many people realized that this is changing. Of course, what is unfortunate is that many people suffer right now. But at the end of the day, we should, of course, try to make the best out of it. And our future is having to do a lot with digital mindset, with digital skills. And by helping people getting future proof, I mean that our coding school equips people exactly with these skills. So we have many students who came from very typical professions and somehow on the job realized that this is not a profession that they would like to do until the end of their life,
Mm.
or they could already experience themselves that technology was slowly replacing them. And this is for many of our students the moment where they realize how important it is to pick up new digital skills. And here we heavily focus on coding.
Mm.
So with just that idea that was born 1.5 years ago, we could help so many people already to change their life. And with changing their life, what this means in real is that we help them picking up these new jobs, picking up software development jobs or jobs in software development consultant. And this is just a great moment when these people start reaching out to you, telling you, hey, now I'm having such a cool job. My work-life balance is even better. I have a safe future for now. This is the biggest gift at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And Tim, for the people who come to this WS Coding School, from your experience working with them, what kind of challenges do they face when they are getting into tech?
Yeah, that's a very good one. So picking up technological skills is, in my very own opinion, different from the things that we experienced in our past. So here I'm talking about the skills that you picked up at university and in school. So learning software development and especially getting into this digital mindset is something completely different than what we know from school, where we had to learn the capital cities of Europe by heart.
Hmm.
Um, that's completely different because it's not only you as the newcomer in tech who's picking up a coding language, it's also understanding what it really means being a member of this community and being someone who is living and working in this profession. So you as an engineering manager, you know that, for example, imposter syndrome is a phenomenon quite popular for new software developers, because you always have this feeling, hey, I was doing my best, I was learning so hard, and even after 3 months, I feel like I only touched the surface. How can I pick up all these skills in half a year? And this is always the moment where we are consulting our students and telling them this is normal. Ask senior developers after 10 years of experience. 90% of them would tell you, hey, but I have the same feeling that I have to pick up so many things. And that's actually something you have to enjoy. And that's what people are afraid of in the beginning, that they think they are not good enough, that they think that they can never reach this goal. But very often I can watch my calendar after 3 or 4 months. People start realizing that this is normal, and they slowly get into this mindset. And that's the moment where you see, okay, a job done from now. Picking up a coding language or picking up other tools is fairly simple, but it's all about the mindset. And this mindset of being a lifelong learner is, I'm quite sure, something that will not only be valid for the domain of software development and tech. This is something we have to take very seriously, all of us, in all the different jobs.
I agree. And I think the part around imposter syndrome, I think it's shared in such a right way that this is a normal. It's okay to have that, because people who have been in the industry for a really long time also face this on a daily basis. um I also like the aspect about working on the mindset of individuals, which is everybody needs to think that learning does not happen at one point in time and you just forget about it and then move on, but it's a continuous process. I wanted to understand from you, what is, from your experiences working with these engineers or people who are coming into this profession, how do you, in practical, help them, um, think about imposter syndrome? Like, is it through examples? Is it through experience? What is the process for them to actually understand about imposter syndrome and how to actually acknowledge and deal with it?
Yeah, that's. I really like to pick this one up because this is something we have to deal with at our school almost every day with all these many different students coming or having so many different backgrounds. Of course, here it is so important to treat everyone as an individual and not a community as a community of students where everyone is the same. Um, what helped many software let's talk about software developers as an example. What helped many of them to overcome this or to also grow on this role is having someone who can guide you through that. So we are big fans of setting up um, mentorship systems where you are not, and now I'm relating to someone to typical online education. You are watching a video in about JavaScript, for example, and you try learning that. How can you overcome the imposter syndrome when there's no one out there in the internet to help you? And that's why that's what we highly value in our coding school and in the community, that basically everyone has access to mentors, to role models. We are connecting our upcoming software development talents with people from the industry and guest speaking talks where they very specifically talk about the imposter syndrome. So how if they could overcome that, how did they do? And also in daily challenges, we see that it is very important to just be there for a human, be there to help people with all their very individual struggles. And that's also, in my opinion, the key to overcome that if you just treat people as human.
Right. So, working through the process of mentorship and having people to share their experiences is what I understand is one part of how you help these individuals who come to your coding school so that they understand and also being able to embrace this imposter syndrome.
Mhm. That's correct. So let me pick up a very realistic example. And what we really enjoy doing is um, we really love inviting senior software developers who can really relate to many of these different experiences from big companies, small companies. This doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but a format that our community loves so much, if they could really personally, I mean, it's a big virtual meeting, but if they can really ask personal questions, a personal question which has to deal with imposter syndrome, or where it could start is, hey, um, at some point you started your career. How did you land your first job? How did you tell a recruiter that you are good enough to do that? And these very personal questions are so great to see. And what's also funny to see is that these questions do not really change with people who are starting in this industry or people who are working for 6 years in this industry. Um, that's always a funny moment, but it's showing us that these very personal relationships are so fruitful and helpful at the end of the day.
Right. So, Tim, I also have question around the process itself as the individuals who come to the coding school really go through. So, I'm assuming that people who are coming in may not have the experience of what it takes to be a software engineer, and through the process that they go through in your coding school, they essentially are getting this preparation to be able to find jobs and actually start their careers. With that as the understanding of the process, I wanted to check with you about this topic about mindset, because this is a quite important topic, and especially when you're teaching people, when you're grooming them, how do you help them to acknowledge the part about lifelong learning, which is so specific and also very mainstream when we talk about software engineering or technology jobs in general. People look at it, oh, this is like you never stop learning in this. You always have to have a new technology or new framework or a new library or new language. How do you help individuals who go through the coding school really get into that mindset about being a lifelong learner?
So I think we are in a very comfortable situation that people who are driven by this motivation to change something in their life very often at this step, so that's the last moment before they decide to join us, they very often already realized that they have to change something in their professional life. And we are very lucky that many of our students are joining us with the clear knowledge and vision that they are starting something completely new, that they need to be open to dig into something they never heard of, probably. And by just going through the first weeks of a coding school where you have to deal with so many different concepts, something you really never touched before, you probably you do not really realize that you are building up this passion for learning yourself. But there are always these key moments when, let's talk about very specifically a very easy example about web development. So as a new student in web development, you start slowly with HTML. And you scratch the surface of web development, of course, but the fast feedback you get from, hey, I learned that I could put code into practice and I get a result in my browser, which actually looks quite okay, is just feeding you with it's just increasing the motivation and the hunger that you have to get more adrenaline. And then you keep going with CSS. Oh my God, my website looks way better now, and let's even add functionality with JavaScript to it. And that's just making you so happy that you see that you can really get a direct feedback on the new skills that you build up, that you very often want more. And this is then paired with just the industry knowledge that you slowly pick up. Of course, we are highly encouraging our students in picking up new skills once they are leaving our school. And this is something we are connecting very closely to the industry. So we a very easy example is that we are showing job offers to our students. And if you compare a job offer from 1 year ago with job offer from today, you already see that there's probably a new framework that companies start looking at. And that's what we are highlighting, that this is our students are not done when they not mastered, but when they picked up JavaScript and React and potentially Node.js. So this is just a start, and we tell them, hey, keep in mind that there are many things coming up, but then we are lucky. That's what I'm referring to now. They build up this passion and motivation to pick these new skills up because they are directly benefiting from it after a very short period of time. They don't have to wait for 5 years to see, oh wow, finally React is helping me. React is helping them directly. And that's I think here we are quite comfortable that just by a very natural process, our students are picking this up.
Right. So, Tim, thank you so much for sharing that. I want to circle back to your story. And you shared about the enthusiasm that you had for tech when you started, like 5 year old, looking at a Game Boy and thinking out possibilities. Um, what, as a head of a coding school, what is your job? What do you do? And what is your responsibility?
Mhm. Sure. So as someone who's heading WBS Coding School, it is my responsibility that we have a great product at the end of the day that really has an impact on society, on people. And of course, this is the main purpose, the main vision that we have for the school. And there, um, which is quite clear, I would say, are coming a lot of just management skills, so to say. Um, of course, I'm running a team of 20 people, a very talented people. So my job is finding the right people with the right mindset, guiding them on this journey, and helping to build this great product. So that's my one piece of my typical job, building this team and growing this team, providing them with purpose and vision, guiding them. But very often they also, of course, that's why we are hiring people. They are telling me what to do. That's in these complex times. Of course, you cannot oversee all these different areas. So every person we are adding to the school is an expert in her or his domain, and really helping us to grow this business at the end of the day. And of course, another big part is the strategic vision of the school. So we said to ourselves that we want to be the tech school which is educating the jobs of tomorrow. And this, of course, means being very closely connected to the industry, closely observing with our product team which technologies are popping up, what are industries adopting to. There's so many actually exciting trends to observe, where we always have to ask ourselves if this is a trend which is evolving into a job. Earlier, I mentioned the data scientist. There's so many new things popping up, especially in the domain of data. And not even I know, and I'm dealing with that every day, what is happening in 5 years. So that's always exciting. You're always on a very exciting journey. And this makes it so unique and so special and so much fun to work on.
Hmm. You mentioned that as one aspect of your role is to grow the team, right? The team of people that you work with who run this school. How do you find these people? How do you find the right people who would be able to get motivated to um, basically educate others in a coding school environment? Considering that a lot of people who pursue the traditional engineering and technology work either are working for startups, enterprises, building software or building technology, and having people to come from that experience and actually focus on teaching. How do you find this process of getting the right people for the team that you're building there?
Mhm. That's something I enjoy so much doing, because here we are, I mean, we all know from a few years ago how hiring in general looked like, and that, of course, recruiters are screening for your CV, and if you didn't have a bachelor's degree or master's degree in this domain, they would probably not invite you. So here we have a complete different approach, and I'm a very big fan of looking into the human and seeing what skills this person could add to our skill set that we already built up. And this paired with the very individual motivation. So do you have an intrinsic motivation to really change something, to really get a green field where you can help the school and the team to have an impact on society? And if we, in very personal chats, if we find out that someone is really living for that and can relate to our purpose in doing so, um, that's the moment where we realize, okay, this could be very interesting working together. And if these people, of course, are coming with the drive, the skill to get their hands dirty, the skill to love being surrounded by people, and of course being learners themselves by being someone who knows that we all want to grow on our job, that it's nothing we just want to do to have an income at the end of the month. And if we find out that someone culturally and also with their very individual backgrounds fits to the environment that we build up, that's to us almost and always the best proof that this person is the right one to help growing our idea.
Right. So, Tim, coming to the work that you mentioned, the responsibilities that you have, what can you share as the challenges do you face on a daily basis helping to run this school?
Mhm. I think the biggest challenge, which is also probably the biggest gift, that we are dealing with challenges that not many other people tried solving before. So this whole coding school, modern tech education business is such a young industry that many things we are working on every day have not been solved or tackled before. And almost every day we are facing challenges which could be connected to our community, to the learners, to remote learning, but also to technologies we should pick up. There's so many different challenges that we cannot just solve with our experience, because many of these challenges no one of us ever faced before, and all these challenges are just being created with the general development of the tech environment and tech industry. But talking about a challenge, I really want to highlight that this is a very positive one,
Hmm.
and that this is very beneficial for all of us.
Right. I wanted to just understand and go into another layer of the process itself about finding the technology that you should focus on as part of the curriculum that you offer in the school. So let's take an example. Um, so we have a lot of work around, or a lot of kind of vibe around decentralized applications, like people building bitcoins, ledger based application, Ethereum. So we have obviously these technologies which are coming up. It's not mainstream. I think fintechs have been kind of leveraging those. um, and if you see this trend coming in, so there are a lot of people talking about decentralized application, bitcoins, and ledger, Ethereum. What is your process to look at a trend like this and then basically think about actually establishing a curriculum, a process for people to get skilled into that? Can you
Mhm.
just walk us through that process itself?
Sure. So the process itself, so also realistically speaking, we have set up a product team which is um, really taking care of, and now the first step, observing the development in the industry. Of course, we all know the hype around Bitcoin, especially in the past weeks, which was going through the roof again.
Yeah.
But connected to Bitcoin is one skill that we could identify, which might be interesting to pick up in a coding school environment, which is blockchain engineering, for example.
Hmm.
So we see that there are trends, and these trends are based on blockchain engineering. So for us, the question would be: is it interesting enough to make a curriculum for our learners out of that? And of course, it is not as easy as it may sound to just build a curriculum which really helps people to land a job afterwards. So here, quick summary: why we exist is that we want to help people landing a tech job. And of course, in some domains, we know that we lack thousands of people in this industry, especially in web development and data. But closely observing the applications that you were talking about, Ethereum, Bitcoin, blockchain engineering in general, the domain is not big enough yet that people would really benefit after finishing this education right now. So here, another very important step follows, that we are closely observing the job market. So here we are referring to annual data from the German government, for example, or from European government, about the job market, to see where's a shortage in skills and which jobs are high in demand. And there it is slowly, like, let's stick to this example of a blockchain engineer. It's slowly evolving, but it's not big enough yet to really start educating people every month in a longer program to start out a career afterwards. Because what we would like to avoid is that we are teaching people something, and right afterwards they have a hard time finding a job because the industry was not or is not fast enough to also offer a lot job opportunities. So that's why patience is very important. We would like to build so many different programs, but at the end of the day, we want our students to benefit from these programs, and the time is almost or always given when there is a clear evidence on the job market that there's really a demand for these roles. And that's basically, if I would need to summarize now, it has a lot to do with observation and analyzing trends in the market. So it needs a lot of time.
Fantastic. And as you mentioned that you have a eye on the market itself, like what is in demand, where is the shortage in skills? If it's possible for you to share, like from your vantage point, from your view, in 2021, where do you see the shortage is coming from? Like which skill sets are in demand? Where do you think most jobs would be created?
So here I'm very happy to say that I'm working on this on providing a solution to this issue every day. And one very, very important skill is coding. So we could see so many areas and so many industries in marketing, in robotics, in whatsoever you could name now. It is even insurance, even lawyers. So many things are automated nowadays with code. And this is just a start. So let's not forget that this industry we are living and working in is such a young industry compared to the others, that
Right.
this is just the moment where everything starts. And if I would need to give an advice to someone, and I mentioned that I have two daughters, I would recommend everyone, if of course they want to and they can relate to that, it would be coding. No matter what coding language, but it should be a general understanding for the domain of coding.
Right. I mean, you could be taking up arts or music or any other thing, humanities, for example, and you could still take advantage of writing code to be able to do things that you want to do in your domain, in your field.
Exactly. That's true. And a funny example here is that we actually have quite a lot of students with a background in arts and music, and you cannot imagine if you merge these areas, arts and code, you
Right.
cannot imagine how many cool things you can do with code. We had so many music projects, art projects. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. I wanted to spend some time, Tim, on the topic about skills that you think would help future proof individuals who are applying or getting into this domain, into this field of building technology. Apart from being able to write code, uh, what else do you see are the skills that they need to be able to thrive in their jobs and also be prepared for the future? I mean, just obviously keeping the technology part aside, like either you're a React engineer or you are Python developer writing, building notebooks and writing analytics infrastructure. Do you see skills beyond just writing code that they need as a part of building themselves for the future?
Oh yeah. Next to the technical skill, which probably makes 50% of your skill set, I highly advise um, focusing on areas of skill one, communication, getting more and more important. Problem solving skills. I think the example of our challenges every day, how we are solving them, needs problem solving skills. And the third one I would love to mention now would be creativity. with an industry, and not only this industry, but the whole labor market facing such a big change in the future, creativity is a very, very handy skill to pick up, to be just ready to help designing the world of tomorrow.
Hmm. And how do you see the being able to promote and also upskill individuals in becoming more creative or and taking a problem solving and becoming a better communicator? How do you create those opportunities for them to exercise improvements in these areas?
Sure. Um, I would see two ways. Now ignoring everything that we do with our own students, but probably advising companies or individuals how to do that. Um, we are all lucky that we are living in an age where education is almost for free, thanks to the internet. So something a lot of people, of course, started is watching inspiring talks, watching inspiring learning videos on YouTube or on all the different channels out there. So this is something, just by updating yourself with relevant skills and following maybe a YouTuber of your choice, or a blog, someone writing blog posts of your choice. Um, uh, Equally important, companies need to understand, in if they reach a certain size where they have an HR department with a group of people taking care of learning and development. This is definitely something that every expert in learning and development should know about, and that these trainings should be offered to their coworkers. Also here, one example, probably everyone who's listening to this show once in a life went through a company Excel training. That's one example that is, I think, really, really popular. And then you are having a look on the training catalog of a company, and you see, okay, I can do an Excel training, a Word training, how to present, or how to present in front of an audience training. But I think these soft skill trainings around creativity, offering really creative workshops, offering workshops around problem solving skills, where you could just have your coworkers working on a capstone project, probably, which might be connected to even to a company problem. There's so many ways that, in my opinion, learning and development teams in companies should pick up. There are companies who are really role models there, but also, of course, with digitalization and all these new skills, there are many companies with a lot of homework. So these areas I see, which are equally important.
Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing that, Tim. Um, Tim, I needed to hear your comment and your views on this aspect that sometimes I discuss with my colleagues and my friends is training people and providing them a way so that they know how to learn. So for me, is becoming like a key area that I see where education can really change. And the background is like, I think a lot of times where I see problems in terms of, people that people face is just trying to figure out how to learn, right? Because there's so many sources of information. You have YouTube's, blogs, the open universities, Udacity, Coursera, and Udemy. So it's always becoming actually more overwhelming for a new person to come and say, okay, how do I even learn this? And as you said, we cannot be prepared for every new technology that may come in 10 years. We cannot prepare now. So, from your experience having run this school so long, how do you see this problem about helping people learn how to learn?
That is, thank you for bringing this up, because um, as a school, we also set a goal to ourselves that we want to revolutionize the way that education and especially tech education is done. And when you have experts in this topic, and here I'm really happy to have like-minded people in our team, when you start thinking about how a modern school should look like, you at some point start thinking about different types of learners. And here I'm very pleased and very happy that I had the opportunity in the past to work in learning and development myself to understand that, of course, there are many different types of learners. So for example, I love watching videos. I could watch for 3 or 4 hours in the evening any YouTube video where I could pick new skills up just learning from experts. But what I really hate is reading through long documents. I really personal example. I get the feeling of falling asleep when I have a document to read of 15 pages where at the end I need to summarize for myself
Mm.
what was relevant now and what was not. Um, but there, on the other side, I don't know how it looks, how it is for you, but there are people who love reading, and
Mm.
now our discipline, one of our main disciplines in our school is to set up a curriculum where you target all these different types of learners.
Mm.
And that's a huge challenge because whenever you offer a workshop for 90 minutes, for example, where it's about listening to an expert, you have 10 people out of 15 who love doing that, and you have 5 who are not enjoying that. And that's the key, or that's one of the things that we are tackling almost every week to get the perfect mix to always be able targeting these different learners, because we are always having a group of people. It would be a bit different if I'm an individual and I'm sitting at home and I have this idea to pick up a new skill. Very relevant example here is if I don't know how to pick it up and what works for me, I highly advise to just try out. One evening, try out with a podcast. One evening, try out with a video. What works for many people is just learning by doing, especially in code. Just start coding and not only watch videos. So just start failing and learn from your failures. That's also one philosophy we implemented in our school, having a very hands-on approach. But once you understand that there are different types of learners and you can probably relate to one or two of them, you start building up your motivation because you could somehow identify your purpose and also the way how to get there. So I would highly advise start start finding out what type of learner you are, and then you probably set up the foundation for your learning experience.
That is actually very, very well said. So, what I take away from what you mentioned is figure out what kind of learner you are and experiment with different forms of learning, right? So, you listen to podcasts, look at videos, read, talk to people, experiential, just try out something, and then probably figure out what works for you. And then
Exactly.
yeah, I like that a lot, and I think this is essentially what I think will really help people because traditionally I think educational institutions have always advocated one form of learning, right? So either read a book, give an exam, or be asked questions, and I think for some people it really works and they really excel at that, but for the rest they don't find the enjoyment, they don't find the aspect of really enjoying that particular content, and then potentially get disappointed and demotivated and just move out. So yeah, I really enjoyed what you just said.
And your summary was highlighting one very popular problem, in my opinion. You were talking about traditional education, and we all know how it is to sit 8 hours in a classroom
Mm.
where we are just listening and taking notes. And I hope that it's not only me who now is looking back and found this to be very tiring.
Mm.
And talking about efficiency, let's refer to any bachelor's program. Is this the most efficient education that we can really have? Is there no other way that we could set up in 2020, 2021 to be more efficient, to be more targeting the real needs of different people? Because what I do in any university or school is that I pick so many different people, put them in one bucket, and let them have the same experience, which does not work at all. I mean, we know that this is not working, and that's also one of my very personal passions and motivations. That with our school, we really have the chance to tackle that issue, and the feedback that we get is amazing. So, very true aspect that you mentioned, that traditional education will see a lot of change, I'm quite sure, in the next years.
Thank you so much, Tim. I think we're almost at the end block of our podcast, but I wanted to definitely ask this question to you before we get to conclusion. From your view, and for whatever is just discussed in this podcast today, how do you see the future of education?
I love this question. Whenever I hear this question, I start dreaming, and I don't know exactly where it was, but I was watching a very interesting video a few weeks ago, where the key message was that the biggest company in 2030 will be an educational company. And if you start thinking about this, and if you start looking at your friends, at your colleagues, at your own job, at the own skills that you want to pick up, how many people start building up this mindset that education will be the role to success of humanity in the future. One example I always love telling our students, that my parents, for example, they picked up a job when they have been in their early 20s, and they are still performing the same job. And I really wonder, I mean, to me, it's already different after only 10 years, and to many of my friends as well. So we know and see that there's a big change coming, and it's not really coming. We are all living in this big change already. So education will probably, there will be an educational company in 10 years, which will be bigger than Amazon and all these platform models. It's not so unrealistic.
Hmm. So, Tim, like if someone listening to this podcast wants to get into, starting an educational company, whether it's another coding school or an online education or anything to do with building the future of education, as you called it, what is your recommendation? What is your advice for them?
Be passionate. Be passionate about the whole topic around education, because without it would not work. Or this area, of course, you could make a living out of it, but education, and I think also many teachers can relate to that. You want to have a social impact. And if you're passionate about having a social impact and really helping people to grow and change their life, then this definitely is a domain that you will feel good in.
Thank you, Tim. Uh, Last question for you, Tim. What are some of your favorite books or blogs or content that you enjoy, like the videos that you mentioned, that you would like to recommend to our audience?
So I'm a very big fan of TED Talks and all the different varieties of it. I really enjoy watching episodes before I fall asleep. This is, I don't know, my way to slow down in the evening. And if I would need to refer to a book, one I really remember from the past years was The Big Five for Life, which really helped me defining my very own purpose. Why am I on Earth, and what impact do I want to have? And before probably starting your job or going to study, really take the time, start thinking who you are, what is your purpose, how can you help humanity. This is an excellent exercise, which can be a bit frustrating, but the Big Five for Life, I can highly recommend reading.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. I think this conversation was really engaging and so powerful. So thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience with our audience.
You are welcome. It was a pleasure. I somehow have the feeling that we only talked 10 minutes, but now now having a look, it was an hour already. So if there's any way you you start digging deeper into that and have a longer discussion, I'm always happy to join that, because this is really a topic I'm very passionate about, and hopefully I could translate that into our conversation today, and hope that at least one will pick this motivation up and can relate to what I was allowed to share. This would be already a gift for me.
Thank you. That's such a beautiful word. Um, and Tim, people who probably would like to reach out to you if they have questions, or they are infected by your passion and they want to really reach out to you, what would be the right platform for them to reach out to you?
The easiest one, with where people get a very fast response, would be LinkedIn.
Okay,
So I'm happy to provide my LinkedIn.
awesome. And I will put that link into the show notes for them.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Vivek, thank you, and enjoy your weekend.